Good afternoon. My name's Andy Kahn. I'm Director of Victim Services for Crime Stoppers of Houston. Today's a great day. It's also part of National Crime Victims' Rights Week. And you can't script what's happened to the Alvarez family any better than having it happen during a week in which we honor victims, victims' rights, victim advocacy, and we try to call attention to the rights of crime victims and that there is hope for everybody. You know, 2 years ago, plus, and I don't like, saying this, but we meet the families under the worst possible scenarios and circumstances, and that's just the reality. And the Alvarez family, the extended family, they've become part of our family at Crime Stoppers. We've become part of the family at the Houston Police Department, part of the family at the Harris County District Attorney's Office. And I wish we would have never met under these circumstances, but I'm also proud and honored to consider them part of our family, and we love them dearly. And as far as Crime Stoppers, what we've done, our CEO, Rania Mankarius, over here has been just a stalwart on making sure that we never forgot this case and making sure that we could do everything we possibly can for making sure they had justice. Some of us, probably never thought this day would come, but all of us had faith that it would come. And if not for the bulldogged perseverance and determination of this family, who knows? But it took a combination of team, and it was a teamwork. And we've always felt from the beginning that when somebody indiscriminately fires a gun or firearm, very similar to celebratory gunfire, and that bullet lands and kills somebody, that merits a murder charge. And that brings us to where we are today. And I'd like to thank Constable Jerry Garcia, Precinct 2, for all his support with the family as well. And the entire community's invested in seeking justice for Arlene. There's a saying that we have in the organization Parents of Murdered Children and Surviving Family Members of Homicide, and that saying is that grief is intensified when justice is lacking. And for 2 years, justice has been lacking for Arlene and her family. And we hope that the last few days have brought some measures of comfort and relief to this family as they begin their next journey in seeking justice. And their next journey, we will be with them as we proceed where we've been long waiting, and that's at the courthouse. And with that in mind, I'd like to thank our District Attorney, Kim Ogg, her team, prosecutors, everybody, for their, incredible work on seeking justice for this case. Getting to where we are today took a lot, and it took a lot of hard work and dedication. But it just goes to show you that their efforts in securing justice for Arlene, we've taken a giant leap towards that. So, District Attorney Kim Ogg.
We're going to have the detective go next.
Take two on that. So we're going to have Houston Police Department come up and kind of summarize facts of the case and kind of where we are right now and what we're asking for the public's help in.
Good afternoon. On the night of February 14th, 2022, at the Chase Bank at 2900 Woodridge, the complainant was at the ATM attempting to make a transaction when she was robbed. An occupant of that vehicle exited the vehicle and shot at the suspect. One of those bullets tragically killed Arlene Alvarez that night. As we continue to investigate the robbery, and we are hopeful that We will ask the public to identify any suspects believed to be responsible for this crime to come forward and talk about it and name names and help us seek justice for what we've sought after for 2+ years.
Detective, can you give us your name, please?
It's all right.
Sergeant David Helms, HPD robbery.
Good afternoon, Alvarez family, HPD, Constable, Crime Stoppers, members of the press. You know, this case is not a typical case. This is not a case where the perpetrator set out to kill somebody that night. The perpetrator in this case is Tony Earls. Tony Earls was investigated by HPD 2 years ago. He was handled by our office at the grand jury, and based on the evidence that HPD had at that time and that was presented by the prosecutors, Tony Earls was no-billed. At that time, we gave a press conference and I was asked if Mr. Earls' case would be represented to any grand jury. And I said no. Generally, we do not do that unless there's new or enhanced evidence that comes forward in a case. An example of that is the Josue Flores case, where initially HPD had the wrong suspect. He was dismissed. Then HPD arrested who they believed to be the correct suspect, and we had to dismiss that case at that time because the DNA evidence simply wasn't strong enough. But science and technology progressed in the 2 years following that dismissal, and later that same defendant was brought before another grand jury and he was indicted. This case is similar. New and enhanced evidence was presented by and through the police department to a special prosecutor. Secondly, I named a special prosecutor, Warren DeProm. Where's Warren? Right here. Warren is the creator of the Vehicular Crimes Division at the Harris County District Attorney's Office. He did that years ago. He pioneered that field of prosecution because this case involved a defendant, Mr. Earls, shooting at a vehicle, and with Mr. DeProm's further experience trying capital murders and murders in different counties around the state, I appointed him special prosecutor to take a look at this case. I didn't do so, however, without some instigating factor, and that was the family. And the family pursued experts. They pursued evidence that had not yet been discovered or collected. They pursued justice for Arlene, not just because they loved her, but because people cannot live with injustice. And the no bill for Tony Earls that basically exonerated him from responsibility criminally in this case was just wrong from their perspective. This year, and just the other day, a new grand jury agreed with them. Arlene had not received justice, and Mr. Earls was found to be criminally accountable, at least by the probable cause standards that the grand jury looked at the case under. And so I want to thank our special prosecutor, Warren DeProm. I want to thank the members of the grand jury who heard the case. I want to thank HPD for sticking with this case and believing in Arlene and pursuing every piece of evidence down to the last lead. And I want to thank Constable Garcia for the support he and his fellow law enforcement officers have given the family during this 2 years. I also want to thank my victims assistance coordinators and division and our community outreach division, Anna Carpenter, for sticking with this family because they have been through hell and our people were right there with them. So finally, and in conclusion, I want to thank the Alvarez family. I want to thank you for your incredible patience. You know, it's easy to say, well, just wait, just have patience until it's your niece or your daughter. Imagine somebody telling you to wait and you really having no choice but to do it. They could have lashed out, they could have been angry, they could have been bitter, they could have done nothing. Instead, they directed all their energy toward achieving justice for Arlene. And that's our goal. And we'll respect what happens in the courtroom, whether it's with the jury or the judge, but they will get their day in court. And during Crime Victims' Rights Week, that seems to be the least we can do for the only parties in the criminal justice system who didn't volunteer to be here, and that's the crime victims. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, members of the press. Who's next, Andy?
You know, like District Attorney Ogg, the Alvarez family has just been incredibly close, and, you know, just from our staff to you guys, you're an inspiration. And if I can just have Wendy and Armando come on up here and share a few words.
I hate coming up here for this motive. And every time I talk about my daughter, I get so sentimental because even though it's been 2 years, it still feels like it was yesterday. But we feel relief, even though it brings us a little comfort that we have been on the first step of receiving justice for my daughter. And it gives us a little bit more comfort. I want to thank everybody that's in this room for being here for us, the media, the community, my family, everybody that has been supporting us, because we had a big loss. And we're here for the love of Arlene, and hopefully we inspire other families to never give up on their loved ones, because it's horrible and it's a big nightmare what we go through. But thanks to my family and my kids and my husband, we're living day by day. But thank you all for being here for us, and it means so much to us.
You know, we can't go back and change what happened to the Alvarez family, but we try to make things better for others to come along, and they've achieved a lasting legacy. And that's what this is about. And I think everybody here would probably agree that none of this happens without the bulldogged, determined efforts of April Aguirre. April?
Again, I want to echo thanks and praise to everybody that made this happen. It took a village. I want to tell the whole community that not every single case is going to take a traditional path. Our case didn't take a traditional path, and we had to do a lot of legwork. But I'm going to say that there's a little girl right now that's buried in a casket that doesn't belong to be there. She deserves to be alive and with us. And because of that, we couldn't give up on her, and we're not going to. The most basic right of every victim is to have their day in court, and that's what we wanted. We wanted to see somebody fight for Arlene, and we could not accept the no bill that we received last July. I hope it's a message of hope, and I know that there's a light shining bright in heaven today. And Wendy and Armando, you guys have been so strong. Goro, you lost your sister and the whole family, and this should have never have happened. I understand that there's some people out there that have sympathies for Tony Earl, but I will say he made a conscious choice. He made a conscious choice to shoot into that vehicle that night, and he took a life. There's no other outcome when you shoot into a vehicle other than property damage, injury, or death. Those are the three things that are going to happen if you shoot into a vehicle. What he did that night was execute a little girl. She was shot in the temple, and she didn't deserve that bullet in her head. Please, the community, do better. We need to do better for each other. We need to be kinder. And for those victims' families out there, don't give up. Even if your case is not going to take the traditional path, don't give up. Thank you to everybody that made this happen. Crime Stoppers, Renea, Andy, Kim Ogg, Jerry, Warren, you guys are our heroes. You are. HPD, you're our heroes. Thank you for doing this for Arlene and for us.
So in closing, the public is our best eyes and ears out there. And we're asking for the public's help in locating wanted fugitive Tony Earls. He's been wanted for close to a year now. And we know somebody out there knows where he is. And step up to the plate, do the right thing. We are offering an up to a $5,000 reward for any information leading to his arrest. We're also offering the same reward, up to a $5,000 reward, for the person that began this incredibly sad journey when he decided to rob at that ATM over there. So, two things. Tony Earls and whoever that robber is, now's your chance, and we're giving you up to 5,000 good reasons for doing that. So we want to thank everybody here. I want to thank all the media here for your never-ending search and working with all of us in getting this story out there. I don't think we're here today without your help. Houston Police Department, you guys are awesome. Harris County District Attorney's Office. It took an entire team. And I'd like to thank our Crime Stoppers staff, too, for basically adopting this family here. And they always have a home here for us as well. So if there's any questions, we'll be more than happy to take them at this time.
Kim, is there any, from the office, Kim, is there a warrant, active warrant for this person? If you can describe what is going to happen after this indictment, what is happening?
Well, the existing warrant that Andy Kahn referenced is for family violence, a felony. And Mr. Earls has been wanted on that case for close to a year. It's a completely separate incident and a completely separate warrant. A warrant will issue from this case, from the grand jury's true bill, if it hasn't already. And Mr. DeProm is asking for $250,000 in bail. Bail cannot be set until Mr. Earls is in custody. So that's where we are with that. There will be two warrants, just like there's two different Crime Stoppers rewards. Those are for different people.
You think he's still in the area?
You want to answer that?
Yeah, we think so.
Yes.
You got to come up and identify yourself.
Oh, no. Sergeant Mark Holbrook. Yes, we think he's still in the area, in the southeast area, yes.
Is he hiding, being hidden, or you think he's just going about his business and he hasn't been picked up?
We haven't been able to find him, and we've been looking for a month or so, a couple months, to try to talk to him about some different stuff. Yeah.
Sergeant Holbrook, what about Tony Earl's wife? She was with him at the time of the shooting. Have you been able to find her?
We have been talking to her. We'd like to talk to her some more, but we have talked to her, and we've been working on this case. David, Warren, we've been working on this case for a while, trying to identify the robbery suspect involved.
Has she cooperated?
Somewhat, yes, ma'am.
How many, can you talk about the progress you've made in looking for the armed robber? Has there been any success at all, or how many tips?
We have gotten some good tips from Crime Stoppers, and we've been out and we have talked to several people. It wouldn't necessarily be appropriate for me to talk about people we've talked to and not charged, but we have talked to some people. We've worked on this case. We've interviewed some people. We have some lab results we're waiting on.
Can you offer any more details about the how you went about as far as the evidence, as far as in charging Mr. Earls with Arlene's murder? Like, I don't know if you could talk more about how we got to this point today, as far as the investigation, not the job to provide.
Okay.
Warren?
Try
that. Warren DeProm, D-I-E-P-R-A-A-M. The wheels of justice sometimes turn too slow, but they do turn. In this case, there was a criminal investigation that was handled by the district attorney's office and still is being handled by the district attorney's office. But in conjunction with that, there was a civil investigation in reference to this particular case. As a result of all the different investigations out there, I cannot go into what was brought in front of a grand jury and what the grand jury considered, because that is prohibited by law. However, I did work with the other people doing the investigation, including the police department, as well as the civil lawyers. I was able to locate some additional experts to look at the scene who determined that Mr. Earls had a clear view of the robber as he was getting away and being shot at by Mr. Earls. Also determined that Mr. Earls had a clear view of the Alvarez's vehicle as it was approaching the bank. The conclusion that I reached was that if you're going to discharge a weapon into a car when other innocent victims are behind you, you better make sure that you're 100% correct, because there's no second chances to bring back an innocent life. Texas law provides for self-defense, defensive property, and also at night to recover property, sometimes by using deadly force. However, Texas law also provides that if you engage in reckless conduct when shooting into a vehicle or any other place or circumstance, those defenses do not apply. Because I worked with the other experts, with the Houston Police Department, and with the civil lawyers, we now have additional evidence to show that Mr. Earls should never have fired into that car.
What is next after the indictment? What is next in the process?
The most important thing is Mr. Earls has, as has been mentioned before, Mr. Earls has an arrest warrant for domestic violence in reference to a child of Mrs. Hines, who was one of the witnesses in this case. And that warrant has been outstanding. He's been a fugitive, so we're trying to find him. The warrant has been issued by the grand jury, and now there's a homicide warrant out there, so that's the most important thing. Like Ms. Ogg said, I have asked for a $250,000 bond because he's obviously a flight risk. We don't know where he is, and he's out there committing other felonies at the time. So we think that bond is appropriate. And we would urge anybody, because what this family went through, when you lose a child, you lose a piece of yourself, and you're never whole again. But what we want is for people to cooperate with law enforcement and give information to the police department so that they can arrest Mr. Earl and the robber in this case who created the entire situation that we're here for. Did I answer the question? Okay.
Anything else? Well, again, thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you, guys. We love you very much. Thanks, everybody.